There are plenty of analog horror series out there, but only a few truly leave us with that lingering sense of unease, that discomfort that stays with us long after we've turned off the screen. Today, we're diving into one of those series that has managed to do just that. A well-told story that not only keeps us on the edge of our seats, but immerses us in a world where reality and nightmares blend seamlessly. It's also set around Halloween night, so what better time than today to bring this series to the channel? Created by the channel Pastra, this analog horror series takes us into Eastridge County, where incomprehensible horrors roam the streets, and you're never truly sure if you're safe. Don't forget to leave a valuable like and subscribe to help the channel grow and reach more people. Every like is one more coin to escape poverty. And if you're not sure what to comment, you can always drop a meow in the comments section. Without further ado, let's dive into Dreams of an Insomniac. We start the series with Dreams of an Insomniac Volume 0, where we step into the shoes of Tommy Merrick. While visiting his parents' house, Tommy stumbles upon a strange box in the attic filled with several tapes. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he decides to watch them. Soon he begins to wonder if the tapes might be cursed, as he starts hearing things that shouldn't be there, and for some reason everything he sees feels oddly familiar. After this brief introduction, the story shifts to a newspaper clipping reporting on the bewilderment of Eastridge County residents following an unusual theft early one morning. The only stolen item was a costume. The clipping reads, "Residents of Eastridge County have been left baffled after what is now being considered the most bizarre break in the community has ever heard of." It supposedly happened in the early hours of the morning, with the culprit of the crime breaking into the Grimso's retail store throughout the doorway. After the break-in, the culprit left the store in a wreck, having only left with a single costume that was stolen from a $5 display rack. Police are still looking for the perpetrator crime. However, a lack of witness accounts, as well as security footage, have led to the case becoming a difficult case to solve. Following this, we see a few interviews. The first is with Rick Graham, the store owner, who explains that the security cameras didn't capture anything because they weren't working. As we'll see later, this isn't entirely true. The second interviewee is a skeptical bystander who believes the theft was staged to create some exciting news. The stolen costume, known as Spooky Inmate, is an orange-brown jumpsuit with a yellow zipper. A note below it warns, "Do not trust anyone you see wearing this costume." This message will appear repeatedly throughout the tape. Next, a news segment reports the Halloween night disappearance of 6 children from the area, all missing at the same hour and in the same town. In an interview, Alex Williams, played by the series creator, recalls that everything seemed fine one moment, but the next, a mother was screaming for her missing child. The missing children are shown through the AI-generated images, a clever choice by the creator. The low-quality images create a disturbing, uncanny valley effect, enhancing the unsettling vibe. We're also shown a portrait of the suspect, a figure with a black, distorted mask, wearing an orange-brown jumpsuit with a yellow zipper, a large grin, piercing yellow eyes, and even a tail. Officer Kruger, who appears on screen, expresses his sorrow over the tragedy and vows to bring justice.
It breaks my heart to hear the horrible tragedy which has come over our town tonight. I promise, not only as an officer on duty, but as a father myself, that these children will be found and the culprit behind these horrible kidnappings will be brought to justice.
Just as the officer's image fades, a haunting face emerges from the darkness, possibly foreshadowing the officer's fate.
Requested that all residents stay indoors, keep all doors and windows locked, and it is heavily advised to not trust anyone you see wearing this costume.
The next section features a tape titled Police Training Tape, 1989. Here we're shown security camera footage from Grimso's retail store, where supposedly no cameras should have been operational. At first there's no activity, but after a few moments, we detect some movement. These images, along with a witness description, earned this entity the name the Eastridge Demon, though we'll refer to it as Clyde. These were the only clues available until now. We then learned that Officer Kruger fell victim to this being, but managed to survive the attack. Thanks to his testimony, there's now a better understanding of the threat and how to combat it. The creature induces hallucinations, so all police personnel are advised to work in pairs, remain observant, and not trust what they see. Physical contact with the demon is highly dangerous, causing severe physical changes such as
skin discoloration, extreme weight loss, fusion of skin and bone, misplaced teeth, and bleeding.
The precautions continue. Maintain distance and avoid any form of contact. Clyde is highly intelligent and knows he's being hunted. He will try to exploit moments of vulnerability. Do not be deceived by his illusions, and never attempt to communicate with him, as he may steal your voice. Finally, a sketch of Clyde appears, now nicknamed the Smiling Snatcher. The last segment of Volume 0 presents a scene from a classic horror movie from the 80s or 90s, until it's interrupted by the emergency system, introducing the rules of the season by the Lankman Foundation. Rules to follow on Halloween night due to the ongoing threat from Clyde. This program is dated 1993, 7 years after the first incident involving this entity. Interestingly, ever since the emergency alert began, 2 faint eyes appear etched on the screen. These eyes may well belong to Clyde himself, suggesting that he's watching the tape with us, learning the tactics people are using to protect themselves from him so he can counteract them.
As Halloween night begins to set in, all residents of Eastridge County should be reminded that the Smiling Snatcher is out tonight. This monster is very real, and threatens the safety of all Eastridge County residents. But don't worry, so long as these 5 simple rules are followed, you have nothing to worry about. Rule number 1. Remember the curfew. No trick-or-treaters should be outside past 6 o'clock p.m. That is when the Smiling Snatcher comes out to play. Rule number 2. Keep all doors and windows in your house locked. That way the Smiling Snatcher cannot come inside. Rule number 3. You do not hear the knocking at your doors or windows. Rule number 4. You do not hear the knocking at your doors. Rule number 4. If you see or hear someone you know outside past curfew, that is not them. That is the Smiling Snatcher wearing their skin. And finally, the most important rule of all. Rule number 5. Do not trust anyone you see wearing this costume.
This is the end of Volume 0. If it hasn't quite drawn you in yet, I encourage you to stay tuned for Volume 1, which takes a huge leap in quality and solidified my admiration for this series. However, before we get there, we have 2 more videos to analyze. The first tape is titled In Loving Memory, but before diving directly into the video, there's something important we need to examine: the description. Here we learn more about Tommy Merrick, who, after watching the Volume 0 tape, was too scared to play the next one. Trying to forget what he had seen, he decided to sleep it off. However, the things he saw on those tapes, along with his curiosity, kept him awake. So, in the middle of the night, and despite his fear, he put in another tape, In this tape, we return to the interview with that skeptical citizen who appears to question if anything strange really happened. At this point, we realize that this interview was fabricated and entirely manipulated. Next, we see an image of Officer Kruger, who supposedly passed away in 1987. The video explains that his death occurred on Halloween night, a year after Clyde's first appearance. His body was discovered after reports of his son screaming from inside the house. Kruger was found hanging in his son's closet, along with a note. The note is difficult to read, but it unmistakably appears to be a suicide note. It's believed that guilt over being unable to help the missing children played a role in this, as he was close to many of the families affected by the incident. A help hotline number is displayed, only to quickly cut to an eerie message and a pair of glowing red eyes. After a brief pause, Kruger's date of death changes to 1996, suggesting he was hidden for 10 years. In the background, we hear the officer begging to be killed, followed by a mysterious voice, belonging to a character called the Doctor.
Help. Please help me. I just want to die. Why won't you let me die?
Because I still have use for you yet.
The second video is titled Family Photo Album. In it, we learn that on the night of January 6th, 1987, the ECPD received a frightened call from a man saying that something, or someone, was trying to get into his house. Upon arrival, the police found the house empty. Everyone had vanished. The only evidence left behind was a photo album and a video camera containing recordings of the events. When the detectives opened the photo album, they were shocked to find that all the photos were distorted, making it incredibly difficult to identify the people in them. When the detectives questioned neighbors, no one could identify the family or provide useful information. One neighbor even claimed that no family had ever lived in that house before. It was as if they had never existed. While the identity of the culprit remains a mystery, several photos from the album and a 911 call made that night suggest that the intruder may not have been human. Here's the recording from that night.
Sammy? Sammy, is that you? I'm right here, Sammy. You're gonna have to help me though, honey. I can't find you.
I'm behind you.
Trying to get in my house. I don't know what it wants. No, I didn't get to look at it. But I'm telling you, it's the demon. It took him, and now it's going to take me. Why you keep using his face? Why are you doing this to me? Hey, Chief. I think I found something.
One detail I forgot to mention is that in the description of this video, the story of Tommy Merrick continues. Looking once more at the collection of tapes, Tommy notices some that appear out of place. They are stored in a separate box labeled Alex Williams. Curious once again, he opens the box to find that all of the tapes are labeled as part of a Foundation archive. His curiosity gets the better of him, and he plays the first tape he finds. We finally arrive at the episode that elevates this series to one of the best in the entire genre. Welcome to Volume 1, Foundation Archive. The video begins with a warning for viewers about graphic content, flashing lights, and jump scares. The opening scene shows a dark room with a green hue, where we see Alex Williams, the same witness from the Halloween incident of '86. We learn that he worked for the Lankman Foundation, the same organization that created the rules of the season as mentioned earlier. He expresses deep regret over this decision, and the reasons for it soon become clear. His work began almost at the same time the organization was founded, after being placed under protection following the disappearance of the children. From then on, he was under constant surveillance, as if in house arrest. The foundation offered him a job, supposedly for his own safety. Alex describes the foundation as an extremely secretive organization, dedicated to helping victims of the Veldegun, a term used to describe mysterious creatures haunting Eastridge, like Clyde. The video then switches to another tape from the Lankman Foundation, this time resembling a public announcement. Through animation, we learn that the Lankman Foundation was founded 4 years after Clyde's first appearance. The founder, Herbert Lankman, used his father's inheritance to reopen an asylum aimed at containing these threats and treating the victims of these entities. It's also mentioned that the foundation financially supports the Eastridge County Police Department. Lankman assures viewers that, although recent years have been terrifying, this will all soon end. Next, we see a recorded phone call from April 6, 1990, directed to the Eastridge County Police Department. A desperate woman's voice urgently requests help, claiming that a group of masked men is trying to break into her house.
Eastridge 911, where is your emergency?
This is 45 Elk Crescent. Send the police, please!
Can you describe the situation to me, ma'am?
There's a group of men trying to break into my house. They're slamming on the door. Please send the police now!
The police will be on their way in a moment, ma'am. I just need you to breathe. Did you get a good look at these men? What did they look like?
I don't know what they look like. They're all wearing masks. I can't see their faces. They look all the same!
What kind of masks, ma'am?
Yellow ones. They're wearing yellow masks. They look like bandages. Hello? Hello? Is anybody there?
After this, we return to Alex, who describes what it was like working for the foundation. He recalls that he and other employees were met with an overwhelming number of rules and training tapes, even for the simplest tasks, each one stranger than the last. Workers were required to wear protective goggles at all times to prevent hallucinations. He also mentions that the patients seemed terrified of the staff, no matter how much they tried to help them. Then, Alex shows us one of the many tapes used for training workers.
Here in the Lankman Asylum, it is imperative for all staff members to be aware of our state-of-the-art hallucinatory environment. Through this unique environment, we are able to keep all patients within our walls in line, as well as treat their conditions through exposure that no other location can provide. The amount of benefits this new technology can provide for the patients of our asylum is numerous, but you must remember that there are multiple precautions which have been put in place to ensure that you, our staff, do not suffer from the effects of our hallucinatory environment and can do your job correctly and safely. The first of these precautions should have been provided to you on your first day at the job, in the form of these specialized optical lenses. By wearing these red lenses, staff members will be able to see past the environment's effects, allowing for no mistakes to be made and a job well done. If at any point these lenses are to be removed, staff members will experience severe hallucinations which will make your work extremely difficult. The second of these precautions comes in the form of knowing what you should and should not be hearing when on the job. Although we have yet to develop a solution for auditory hallucinations, symptoms of them appear to follow a similar and predictable pattern. If you believe yourself to be hallucinating, ask yourself if you're hearing the voices of people that do not exist, distant music coming from an unknown location, Dr. Lankman requesting your aid, or the knocking of doors which do not exist. If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then you are hallucinating and should treat those sounds as if they do not exist. Moving on from our patented hallucinatory experiment, we next must discuss the role of another very important part of our facility. It is imperative that all staff members avoid any form of contact.
Alex mentions that the caretakers were the most disturbing aspect of working there. These caretakers would often drag patients around violently, which horrified Alex and led him to question the ethics of the Foundation. Eventually, Alex recounts an incident that left a lasting impact on him. One night, he witnessed the caretakers dragging away a woman who didn't seem to show any clear symptoms of physical or psychological issues. She screamed desperately, trying to resist. It was then that Alex realized something was horribly wrong. Determined to expose the truth, he began speaking with his colleagues, but they all discouraged him, saying it wasn't worth it. And in case you hadn't noticed, this woman they mention is the same person from the earlier phone call. She was abducted by the caretakers, but why? Another interesting detail I want to highlight is that throughout the training tape, you can hear several whispers, though it's difficult to make out what they're saying.
The first of these precautions should have been provided to you on your first day. Staff members will experience severe hallucinations, which...
What do you think they mean? Let me know your theories in the comments section. Despite the lack of support, Alex decided to approach the patients to try to get answers. His best option seemed to be the woman who had been mistreated by the caretakers. In the early morning hours, he snuck into her room with a video camera to record an interview.
Please don't hurt me. I promise I'll behave. I don't want to go back.
Listen, I don't want to hurt you, I promise. I'm just here to ask a few questions is all. I'm sorry about what happened to you the other night. It was horrible. I want to try and make sure that doesn't happen again. And it would help a lot if you could answer my questions.
Okay.
Alright, thank you. Okay, so my first question. Why were you brought here? You didn't have any diagnosis, and you don't seem to suffer from any symptoms of Veldigan sickness.
I don't know why I'm here. These men broke into my house. Nobody came to help me. The doctor told me I'm sick, but I don't know what he means. I'm sorry if that doesn't help.
It's okay, don't worry. That helps a lot. You're doing great. Now, my next question. That night when you were attacked here, I know it must be a lot, and I'm sorry to bring it up, but do you know where they took you?
I don't know. He told me I can't tell anybody. I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. He said he would take me back there. And I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
Hey, it's all right. You're not going to go back there, I promise. I just need to know where it was. Nobody else will know.
They took me to room 66.
What? No, that's not possible. There's only...
It's him! Just try. He's going to take me back now. Please don't let me take him back.
He isn't going to take
Don't let him take me back. Don't let him take me back.
Wait for a moment.
Just doing?
From that point on, Alex never saw that patient again. They simply sent him back to work as if nothing had happened. Alex became intrigued by the mention of room 66, an impossible space in a facility with only 65 rooms. The training tape warns that without protective equipment like the goggles, employees might experience hallucinations, seeing things that aren't there, such as rooms and people. At this point, it's clear that the Langman Foundation uses fear to ensure their employees wear the goggles, hiding something they shouldn't see, such as room 66. Watching the recording again, Alex notices something odd. A camera in the corner of the room that he swears wasn't there before. He decides to check other rooms, and none have cameras. That night, he makes a fateful choice. He removes the goggles to uncover the truth. When he opens his eyes, everything looks the same at first, but he realizes that the Foundation has been hiding things from him. People, cameras, rooms, and among them, the existence of room 66. Seeing it chills him to the bone. It truly exists. Alex summons all his courage and opens the door. Only to find a place that can only be described as hellish. Inside, he encounters scattered human remains and a gigantic monstrosity, the Veldegun that the Foundation was containing and studying. Winfrey. Unfortunately, it's not the only thing in the room with him. Alex finally understands what has terrified the patients so much. He finally sees what they could see. He finally sees Dr. Herbert Langman. Langman's appearance mirrors the symptoms described in Volume 0. Likely due to years of experimenting with these creatures, he has become something similar to them. I also suspect that the encounter Kruger had, the one that left him with the symptoms after contacting a Veldegun, wasn't with Clyde, but with Dr. Langman, as hinted in Loving Memory. When he appears, we see brief images of him, but one detail caught my attention. The first and fourth images are walls of text with medical instructions. If you look closely, you'll recognize their instructions for performing a lobotomy. Coincidentally, my previous video was about Alice, another great analog horror series on my channel, which you should definitely check out. The episode concludes with Alex explaining how Dr. Langman ordered him to keep working and never speak to anyone about room 66. Langman and the caretakers also grew more hostile toward him, with some even watching him outside work from tinted car windows. Alex eventually learns of someone who might put an end to Langman's evil. As he speaks, we see that the door behind Alex has opened, though he doesn't notice. He sighs, catching his breath, and as he does, we see the open door, revealing a dark hallway. After this, Alex turns off the camera. However, during the credits, red eyes appear in the darkness, possibly indicating that Alex has been discovered. As usual, there's one last thing to check: the description. After watching the collection of tapes, Tommy knew what he had to do. Late that night, he left his house, took a taxi, and headed to the location he'd seen in the tapes. He had no idea what to expect when he arrived. For all he knew, it might not even exist anymore. The thought of what he might find there terrified him, but filled with a new sense of purpose, he pressed on despite his fear. The driver dropped him off far from his destination, unwilling to go any closer. So, Tommy walked. He walked for hours along a dirt and gravel path, passing through an area of the county that resembled a ghost town. It had been so long since he'd set foot there, yet everything felt strangely familiar. The moon hung high above as he finally reached his destination, the Langman's asylum. The building was boarded up and abandoned. a hollow shell of what it once was. He stood in front of the entrance for what felt like an eternity. He knew what he had to do, but lacked the strength to do it. In the end, the fear was too much for him, so he turned to leave. But then he heard something, a bellowing sound, calling to him from deep within the forest. He recognized the creature's call and walked away from the asylum, venturing into the woods to meet someone he never thought he'd see again. Honestly, I didn't have high expectations for this series, but it truly surprised me. This series exemplifies what analog horror should be. I had never seen Pastra's work before, and I must congratulate him. From the art design to the incredible use of color, the soundtrack, everything is so well executed, it's astonishing. It's rare to find an analog horror series of this level nowadays, apart from the usual, more famous ones. This is all the content available for now, but as new episodes come out, you'll have the corresponding analysis on the channel. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It would really help me out. And if you're interested, I have a Fiverr profile where I create high-quality music with artificial intelligence for your projects, like my voice. Wait, what?